So, yesterday the trailer for the highly anticipated Netflix show Shadow and Bone dropped. And I, as a huge fan of all the Grishaverse books, of course was right there to react to the trailer and give you all of my predictions right away. No, I was playing Stardew Valley and kinda lost track of time until it was already dark outside and I realized, oh, I should have filmed a reaction video when there was still daylight. It is now the next day. I waited to watch the trailer. I tried to avoid all spoilers on Twitter so I could get my first reaction on camera for you guys. And then after I watch the trailer, I'm also gonna give you my predictions for the show. So the Shadow and Bone Netflix show is gonna be based on the books Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. Six of Crows is one of my favorite books of all time, and Shadow and Bone is one of the first fantasy books I've ever read, and therefore it is very dear to my heart. By the way, I recently reread Shadow and Bone, so a reading vlog for that will be coming soon as well. So ever since they announced that the show was going to combine Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows, I've been really interested to see how they're gonna do that, since both stories take place in different time periods and different parts of the fantasy world. But in the show, it's gonna be together. And I also really wonder how they're gonna portray the dynamic between the Darkling and our main character, Alina. So I hope that by watching this trailer, I can get a little bit of insight in what they're gonna do with it and make some nice predictions for the show. I'm gonna be wearing very obnoxious headphones. I'm gonna be very extra and wear headphones, but that's just because I want to get like the full high definition experience of the trailer sound. Oh, I'm nervous. What if it's like a disappointment? Now I've hyped it up so much for myself. Okay, we're just gonna go for it. So excited. We are starting now. Woo! Okay. Someone on a horse. The music though. Dang. The music is so good in this show. Just the sound. Oh. Mal's in the Shadowfold. Ooh. Damn. Okay, that light is blue. That's not how I ever imagined it. Okay, this scene is exactly how I saw it when I was reading the book. My heart is going. Oh, what's that ring? Ooh, battles. Where are the Six of Crows people? Oh, okay, there they are. Okay. Okay, I gotta admit that light looks kinda ugly. Okay, that was really cool. Wow. That was really nice. Like, my first impression is that it is exactly how I imagined everything happening in like the first few chapters of Shadow and Bone. My second reaction is, where are the Six of Crows characters? I think we got like 2 seconds of them. Okay, I'm gonna watch this trailer a few more times. I'm gonna analyze it and then I'm gonna come back with all of my predictions for the show, like based on the trailer and based on just everything else. So I've watched it a bunch of times. I think we're first just gonna go through the trailer scene by scene and I'll let you know what I think of it, and then after that I'll go into overall predictions of the show, like in general. Hello, I'm editing this video and oh my god. I'm editing this video and I feel like in the rest of the video that you're gonna watch I'm not conveying well enough how excited I am for this show. Like I feel like, you know, I'm keeping pretty calm throughout this video, but internally, just so you know, I'm like internally screaming the entire time. And I know that when the show comes out, I will watch it and then just probably die. Just straight up, I would just die, I think. I just rewatched the trailer another few times again, and it's just, I love the music that they're using so much. Like, I just have chills. I have chills over my entire body. I'm just, So just know that I'm really excited. I'm just very good at keeping my calm throughout the rest of this video. So we start off showing the fold, which I think looks absolutely amazing. Like just this pitch dark wall with these ships in front of them. It's just... And just the scene where we see the boat going into the Shadowfold. So then we get to see the Volcra, kind of, who live in the Shadowfold. And I was really excited to see how they're gonna do that. And this is kind of a pretty clear shot of what they look like. It kind of seems like they have these kind of skull faces. That looks really cool. And then here's a scene where we see Mel getting taken by one of these Volcra. And this is kind of an interesting thing, because in the books, of course, the whole point is that the Shadowfold is pitch black, which isn't very handy to work with cinematically. So you can see in these scenes in the Shadowfold, there's still a lot of light, because obviously you have to be able to see the characters. So that kind of lessens to me the impact of how dark the Shadowfold is, but also I get it, because you can't just have a pitch black screen the whole time that they're in the Shadowfold. And then we see Alina use her powers for the first time when Mel is attacked, and it's like this really harsh bluish light. And I think this is really funny because, of course, always when you bring magic to the screen, that's difficult, because I think everyone imagines magic very differently. Like this, for example, is not at all how I imagined Alina's sun powers. I imagined a more soft, warm, kind of billowing light, and this is like really harsh. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just always fun to see how they bring such an idea to the screen. Let me know how you imagined Alina's power and if it is similar to what they're doing with it here. So throughout the entire trailer, I really think that they're super close to the scenes in the book. Like when she's taken to the Darkling's tent is exactly how I imagined it. And I think the set looks amazing, like really great costuming. And then they are in the tent, and you know, the Darkling wants Alina to show her power, that she's the Sun Summoner. I'm loving the vibe that we've created in this room. I also really like Ben Barnes as the Darkling. It's interesting because, of course, Ben Barnes looks kind of old, like definitely like in his late 20s, early 30s. I think that makes a lot of sense because I'm pretty sure in the books, the Darkling is described to look a little bit older than Alina, even though we know that he's like 300 years old, but he still looks like a teenager. And I think that kind of doesn't make sense. Like if you were immortal and you stop aging, surely you wouldn't stop aging physically when you look like a 17-year-old, and it would make a lot more sense if you just look like a young man, which Ben Barnes does. So I actually really like the way this all looks. So then it's interesting because we see him using this ring to kind of draw out Alina's powers, whereas in the books he is an amplifier, so he just has to touch her. But here he has this ring, so I'm wondering if maybe this ring is his amplifier. Maybe they've chosen that he is not an amplifier himself, but that he has this ring, which is his amplifier. And then, of course, this is cinema, so we have our obligatory column of light shooting into the sky. And then the next scene is like one of my favorite things of this trailer. We see this shot of Alina being taken away in the carriage, and Mel's like running after her and like shouting her name. And this, I think, is a fantastic choice because this doesn't happen in the book. In the book, the whole point is in like the first chapters we see Alina pining after Mel, but Mel doesn't really pay a lot of attention to her. He's just with his friends, you know, flirting with other girls. Clearly he's not paying a lot of attention to her until later in the story when they meet again and Alina is the Sun Summoner with the Darkling, and then suddenly he's like really jealous and kind of angry at her. And that never sat right with me because I was like, dude, you just ignored her all this time. With this scene alone, we are already establishing that they both really care about each other and that it comes from both sides. And that, I think, is just a way better setup for the storyline, the plot line between Mel and Alina, and is gonna make me like Mel a lot more in the show. Then we have a scene of a battle, which looks really good with the mountains, and I'm not sure when this is. It could be like maybe when they're going after the stag. And then we see a shot of Genya, which looks fantastic. Like, I love the costuming of everything. It just, beautiful. And then is the moment in the trailer where we get to see a few shots of the Six of Crows characters that are gonna be in the show, which is mostly Jesper, Kez, and Inej. So first we see this like bar where someone is kind of performing. But then we see a shot of Jesper. Love him. He's like gambling and then shooting up the place. We see Kaz, who just... I think Kaz looks absolutely fantastic. Like, just exactly how I imagined him in the books. And he has his cane and he's looking very angry. I'm loving it. And then we see this figure descending into somewhere, and I'm thinking that this might be Inej. Maybe this is some kind of heist that they're going on in the series. But that's all we get from the crows in the trailer. Then we get another scene that is, I think, exactly from the book when they are in the carriage, Alina and the Darkling, and they get attacked by Fjordans. Then we see this shot, it's kind of dark, but we see Jesper fighting with someone, and it kind of looks as if they're on a boat. I can't really place it, but it kind of looks like they are in the Shadowfold. And I think that's interesting if we're gonna see like the Six of Crows characters in the Shadowfold. Okay, so I just got another idea. So maybe, you know, it all takes place in Ravka, but maybe Kez, Inej, and Jesper do kind of come from Ketterdam, from Kerch, and like we have the Crows characters kind of on the west side of Ravka, while Alina and stuff are doing all their stuff on the east side of Ravka, and they are both going into the Unsea, into the Shadowfold, and then maybe like that's where they meet. And then like the last scene, we go back to the scene where Alina is in the tent with the Darkling, and he's like, answer the question, what are you? And this looks really cool. Just the ballroom with the king and the queen. Just the set is just beautiful, and the costuming, it all could have looked really cringy and cheesy, but it doesn't. It looks wonderful. And then it ends in like that really important scene where the Darkling turns the room dark, and then Alina shows her powers to everyone, and we get to see the way that her light powers looks. And again, it's not at all how I personally imagined it. I imagined it to be way more kind of like billowing, like rays of sunlight, kind of like northern lights. This is more like, I don't know, crackling power. So from the trailer, it really seems like they are going hard on the Shadow and Bone storyline, which very nicely just fits the exact things that are happening in the book. And there's not a lot of focus on the Six of Crows characters, but it could also mean that they just didn't want to show us as much yet of what they're gonna do with the Six of Crows characters, because we know that their storyline is gonna be the most different from the books. Let's just get into like the general predictions. Okay, so I'm gonna have to fully admit that from the moment that we started learning more about this show, I fully expected / hoped that the show was gonna be better than the Shadow and Bone book. And the reason I say that is because I really like the Shadow and Bone books. I mostly just really loved the concept of them, but I think that they could have been executed a lot better. And I think it's also kind of a universal opinion that you can see that Leigh Bardugo has really grown as an author from the Shadow and Bone trilogy to the Six of Crows duology. And the Six of Crows duology is also just a lot more darker. And I really hoped, and I still think, that with the show they can kind of elevate the story of Shadow and Bone to the quality of Six of Crows. And they also have the opportunity to make Shadow and Bone a little bit darker, which I think would fit the story a lot more as well. I mean, we know that Netflix is kind of known for making shows darker, and Shadow and Bone is the only story for which I think that's actually a good idea. One of my biggest gripe with the Shadow and Bone book is that there's a lot of focus on like how Alina thinks that she's ugly and plain, and there's a lot of like hating on other girls. And I just really hope, you know, if they just leave that out, just leave that completely out in the series, they're already doing a better job than the books did. And I really think that with the series they have the opportunity to focus more on the concept and the storyline and the darkness of it, and focus a little bit less on like the kind of teenagey early YA aspects that are very prominent in the book. Judging from this trailer, I can't really say if that's gonna happen or not, because we can see that the storyline just follows the Shadow and Bone storyline perfectly. But I do think what I see is they're just gonna do Mel a lot better. I really think they're just gonna make him more bearable. I really think they're gonna make the relationship and the dynamic between Alina and Mel a lot more two-sided and a lot more healthy. And then the biggest question, of course, is what are the Six of Crows characters gonna do? Because, you know, the books never cross over. I know in the Q&A they said basically that this is gonna be prequels to the real Six of Crows story in the book. So personally, I think if you've read the book, you know that there are tons of flashbacks in the Six of Crows book, so I think that maybe those flashbacks are gonna be the stories that we're gonna see in the series. So one that I remember the most are the flashbacks between Nina and Matthias and how they met. So I think that that's what we're gonna see in the show. Like, we're gonna see that happening in real life and not as a flashback. I wonder if there's gonna be a heist. Probably. I don't think there's gonna be like the same heist as in Six of Crows. I don't think Parem is gonna be there. We do know that Boyul Barur is gonna play a role in this first season, but maybe he's just gonna appear like in the last episode to kind of set up the story around Parem, and then that maybe can be like a cliffhanger for the next season. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's gonna be like an amplifier thing, because the Parem like makes your powers more powerful. Who knows? And the question is also, who is going to be the villain? Like, I don't think Van Eck and Becca Rollins are going to be there. I thought that maybe just the Darkling is going to be also the antagonist to the Crows characters. Maybe the King and the Queen. Maybe there's going to be like a small heist at the end that has something to do with like the Royal Palace. My prediction is that they're not going to do the heist as it is in Six of Crows, since it is more like a prequel. But they are going to include some form of a heist, simply because Six of Crows is known for its heist storyline, so they're just gonna make up something new. Or at least I hope so. And the last thing, when I made my video about like everything we know about the Shadow and Bone show so far, a lot of you guys asked like, where's Wylan, where's Nikolai, etc. And I think that, you know, Nikolai only appears in book 2 of the Shadow and Bone trilogy, so he's definitely not gonna be in season 1. And I think Wylan is also just only gonna be introduced later. Maybe he's not going to be there at all. Again, since these are prequels, Wylan is really only introduced to the Six of Crows characters. Like, in Six of Crows they don't have any history together, so maybe he's not going to be there until like very late into the show. Okay, that is everything. Those are all my thoughts. Please, in the comments, leave me your thoughts, predictions, anything. I just want to talk about this show forever. Like I said, there is gonna be a reading vlog where I reread Shadow and Bone for the first time in like 6 years or something, so if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you soon in another video. Goodbye!